Hello. Welcome back to It's Going to Be Okay. If you're new here, I'm glad you found your way to this space. And if you've been here a while, today's episode helps explains why this podcast exists and who it's meant to serve. So over the years, I've not really understood my whole purpose here, and I have changed like what I've done. you know, like I started out interviewing people, and that was because I was afraid to say, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? No, but I'm not afraid anymore. So I'm doing this like basic, why am I here? It's a new year. Everybody's like doing New Year's resolutions. I'm not, I'm just stating a basic, like a statement for my podcast. So I want to talk honestly about who this podcast is for and who it's not for. And it's not to exclude anyone because clarity creates safety and safety creates trust. And trust matters when you're talking about faith, mental health, and real life. Girl, you have got a big old rat's nest on her chest. This cat, she's got Persian in her and her hair just mats up horribly. I thought my husband got it off, but he didn't. Anyway, so back to the story, or not story, but what I'm talking about here. So, but before we go any further, I just want to ground us in scripture because that's been my main focus. I've realized that um in this whole, mental health journey that I have in dealing with depression and anxiety is that I stay, do my grounding and scripture and do my devotions and do my self-help care that my days go a lot better. And I just feel like that's what helps other people too. And even if you're not a faith-based person, if you get a basic routine down, that's gonna help you too. So you don't have to be like a religious person, but maybe you're someone who, um, meditates or does yoga or does, I don't know, a Buddhist or something like, those different types of things. That is going to help you with your mental health, okay? So these things are going to, add depth to your life and make you dealing with your anxiety a lot better. So Isaiah 42:3, and these scriptures are all from the New Living Translation. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 3. He will not crush the weakest reed, reed, or put out a flickering candle. So when the candle gets down to the very last of the wick, that's what it's talking about. He will not crush the weakest reed or put out a flickering candle. If your faith feels fragile or your energy feels low, or if you feel like you're barely holding on, this verse tells us something about the heart of God, that he is not harsh with weakness. He is gentle with those who are struggling. There's been so many times when God has been gentle with me, when I've not been gentle with myself, I've not been gentle with those around me. And I'm going to tell you that here recently, my attitude has just been totally sucked. Uh, because I know I talked about it a couple episodes ago where I worked with my doctor to wean myself off of my mental health medication and my anxiety medication. And the reason I did that is because I had been on it, because I had been on it nonstop for over, I think when I checked, it'd been 22 years. I think it's 22 years. And you can't be on that medication for that long. It causes detrimental issues to your organs. And so I'm getting older, right? And so I don't want that medicine to mess up my other organs because I'm getting older. So I've got to come up with other ways to deal with my my bipolar disorder and my anxiety. And I feel like the last 5 years that I've been on this journey that I have put working with my life coach so many good practices into place, and I have worked on clearing out mental health crap, the bad stuff, and clearing out my home and making a life a lot better and just getting older and maturing. And plus my kids have gotten older and they've moved on because, when you have kids in your life, you love them to pieces, but it's a lot of extra responsibility and that adds stress to your life. And so, not that I'm sad that they've grown up and gone away, but I've just had to deal with that and they're not here. And so that's a lot less stress of having small children in my home. So I hope that doesn't confuse anybody. So I just want to talk about who this podcast is for, who my uh, YouTube channel is for, and my coaching is for. The podcast, so my mission is for Christians who love Jesus and live with depression, anxiety, or emotional overwhelm. You believe in God, but some days getting out of bed feels like a victory, right? I have totally been there. You pray, but you're also exhausted, discouraged, or feel numb. And you wondered quietly, why am I struggling if my faith is real? I believe in God, but why am I feeling like I'm just a complete disaster? Um, so this podcast is for people trying to manage their homes, finances, family relationships, and faith all at the same time and feeling like something is always falling through the cracks. It's for believers who are tired of being told to pray harder, but still want scripture-centered truth that actually meets them where they are. The Bible does not avoid emotional pain. That is throughout the whole Bible. God deals with that throughout the whole Bible. Psalms 34, verse 18 tells us, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. That verse doesn't shame the crushed spirit. It honors it. Like I said, God honors those whose spirit is crushed. So if you're dealing with any of this, and even if you're someone who doesn't necessarily have depression, but you're going through something at the time, you know, I can help you during that short period of time. I've helped other people who are not someone that has dealt with depression their entire life. They were going through a hard time in a short period. And so I helped them go through that and gave them some tips and tricks that helped them get through that period. This podcast is for those who want gentle structure, not spiritual pressure, growth without shame, and faith without pretending. So, you may have a little faith. That's fine. You may have a lot of faith. That's fine. It's for listeners who value practical next steps and real conversations over hype, quick fixes, or performative faith. So even if you feel like you're just a fake person, oh, sorry, baby, I didn't mean I hit her right in the head. So, oh, sorry about that. I thought I cleared out my sweater. Anyway, so this is for you. So who this podcast is not for. So I just want to be clear about who this is not for. This podcast is not for Christians who believe mental health struggles are purely a failure of faith. So if you believe that you have mental health issues or you're sick or from anxiety or you have anxiety because you don't have faith, That's not what this is about. You don't get sick because you sinned or you don't have faith in your life. That's a bunch of baloney, malarkey. I don't know who you've heard that from, but you need to just cut that out of your life because I know I've grown up and I grew up in a church where people did believe that if you had sin in your life, then God wasn't, then bad things were going to happen to you. You were going to get sick. If you had sin, if you had a car wreck, you must have had sin in your life. That's a bunch of BS. Okay. That stuff doesn't happen. Scripture tells us otherwise. So, Elijah was as human as we are. So, oh, poop. Elijah struggled, David struggled, Jeremiah struggled. I mean, David had sin in his life. Bad things happened. He calls Bathsheba's he sent Bathsheba's husband to the front lines. Isaiah, is it Isaiah? Anyway, sent him to the front lines. Where he would be killed, and he was killed. Okay, and so and then so when he married Bathsheba, their firstborn died. So they had a baby, it died. Okay, so God tells us that is just going to happen. Struggle does not cancel faith. So we all are going to struggle. If you have faith, I mean, whether you have faith or not, life happens. You're going to struggle. This podcast is not for listener looking for prosperity gospel or instant emotional fixes. Oh, for goodness. I can't even talk. Oh, for pity's sake. Yeah, there's no quick fixes here. I mean, there might be some quick wins because we might do some small things to give us a quick little victory in our journey. That way it keeps us going, to get our endorphins going. I mean, I do that all the time, right? But instant emotional fixes, that's not how you live your life. I've watched YouTube channels. I love watching a good person that likes to declutter, and they teach you something that will help you, prevent you from creating that disaster clutter again, right? And so it helps you, from that moment on, learn how to manage your inventory in your house. The minimal mom is great. She's like my favorite. The clutter bug is my favorite, and then the space maker is my favorite. Those three are my favorite. And you want to know why? Is because they teach you how to deal with your stuff in your house and how to prevent it from becoming a disaster again. And I watched other channels that I've loved seeing them declutter the stuff. And then the next week, it's the same stuff again. And they're cleaning up the same mess again. And I'm like, don't you people learn anything from your mess? But there are people that just love sitting there watching that same thing over and over and over. And I'm just like, I'm someone that loves to learn new things, right? So I just learned that those kinds of channels are not for me. Even though I like watching people declutter, I also like when they've learned something new from the process. And so this is why I feel like I really thrive from life coaching is because I've learned about myself as a person. And that instant emotional fixes it's not longevity. It's not going to keep you. I had to learn how to set boundaries for myself. I had to learn how to when I was feeling overwhelmed, how to you know, uh, how to journal, how to definitely read my Bible, how to go to bed on time, how when I was taking my medication, take my medication on time, make sure I went to the doctor. When I first started taking medication, once I started feeling better, I stopped taking it. You can't do that. You can't do that, people. You have got to continue to take care of yourself. And if you're taking medication, you have to take that medicine. If it's time to go see the doctor, you have to go see the doctor. That your health is number one priority. If your doctor says that you need to get up and exercise, you need to get up and exercise. If he says go for a walk, you need to go for a walk. My cat is like looking at me like, why are you yelling? So anyway, because these two cats are right here in this chair and they're sleeping. So and the noise in the background is my dog chewing on her bed. But anyway, so my doctor would tell me, you need to get up and move around and exercise because there was a point in my life where I was not doing anything. I would just come sit on my couch because I was so depressed from things that were happening in my family, with my kids, and my job that I had before. And it was all I could do to I would just sit on my couch. And if I didn't make a change, my husband was like, you got to make a change in your life or you're going to kill yourself. You're just going to be sick and die. And I had to make a change. Was it easy? No, it was not easy. I failed so many times. So healing is often slow. Growth is often layered. When you make that decision, it doesn't just happen. It's a step, baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step, Tyler step, Tyler, until you get stronger and get stronger. And faith is often practiced in the middle. It's not the absence of pain. You have to keep having faith. You got to keep believing that it's going to happen. And truth matters. So this podcast is also not for those who want academic theology without application. Truth matters, but truth is meant to be lived, not just studied. I studied the Bible. I love learning about new things. I love the online Bible study group that I'm a part of. Been like, I think the day she said 3.5 years ago, but I think I've been part of it 3 years or a little over 3 years. And so she, Diana Koku, is like the nerdiest of nerds, right? She gives us a history about it. I just love that. I love learning about why they did things the way they did, in Jesus's day or back in the Old Testament when they did stuff. I love learning those new things. However, I've got to be spirit led. I got to pray, make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And finally, this podcast, it isn't for people unwilling to talk about hard things. I'm sorry, but I raised 3 boys, and the one thing I learned was, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? That's the most stupidest thing I've ever seen you do. You need to get up out of bed, get cleaned up, get your clothes on, and get your butt to school. Do you know how many times when I would leave for work, because I had to leave for work before they would get up for school, and I would find out that they weren't even up yet. My oldest son, he was struggling in school, and so he went to a special school because he got in trouble so many times, and it wasn't because he was a bad kid, it was because the school that he was at was not prepared to deal with, his diagnosis that he had. So, they sent him to a special school that because of the area where we live, they didn't have anywhere else to put him. So, he went to a school that took care of kids that would normally were like, had gotten in trouble with the police and stuff. But my oldest, he had never gotten in trouble with the police, but the classroom was small enough that they could help him one-on-one, which is what he needed. And he thrived in that environment. So, however, when you didn't show up for school, they called the police. So they called me and said, your son, the police called me and said, your son didn't go to school today. Do we have permission to go in your house? And I said, yeah, go get him. He was put, and that was the only way my oldest son learned was through action. You could talk to him over and over and over. He never learned anything. But through action, him learning that consequence through action, he never did it again. He woke up to 2 police officers in his bedroom. It freaked him out. He never, ever missed school again unless he was sick and I called in for him. So that was something that he had to learn the hard way he, to this day, he won't miss anything. He never missed any more school after that unless he was sick and I called in for him. So some people, so hard boundary burnouts. Okay, so finally, this podcast isn't for people unwilling to talk about hard things. So if you shy away from the truth, you avoid it. And I guess you better not listen to my podcast because that's all I talk about is hard truths. Because I faced hard truths. Now have I shied away from it? Oh, of course. I mean, I am a human being, but I always go back and be like, okay, I will do it. I know I got to do it. I am that kind of a person. So we will talk about medications and boundaries and burnout and grief and seasons of doubt because we've all had that. And these conversations matter. Oh, my Lord. These conversations matter. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. Listen, dog, quit throwing your animal wrath. She's throwing her deck around and hit my computer. So my grace is all you need. He's got grace for us. And his power works best in weakness. I feel weak all the time. That's the best time when his power works for us is when we're weak. Weakness isn't something God avoids. That's when he thrives, when he's helping us. He's always there with us when we are going through something. It's often where he does his deepest work. I mean, he's helped me the most when I've been going through the worst crap of my life. Even when I didn't think he was there, he was there. And in the aftermath, I'd be like, oh, that was good. You two, stop it. These animals are acting like crazy people. So why does this clarity matters? I want to say this clearly and gently, so I'll back off the harshness. This isn't exclusion, it's clarity. And clarity builds trust. I just want you to understand why I'm doing this. If this space feels like a relief to you, like you can exhale a little, then you're in the right place. You don't have to perform here. You don't have to pretend you're okay when you're not. And you don't have to choose between faith and mental health. So as we continue together, my heart for this podcast is simple. To remind you that your faith is not broken. Your struggle is not a surprise to God. And healing doesn't have to be loud or rushed to be real. So Philippians 1, chapter 1, verse 6. Be confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Oh, my Lord. So when I started this journey in 2020, I thought that it was a never-ending thing. I just thought my mess was so jacked up that it would never be finished. But you know what? God is just gonna carry it through to the end, and I'm just so happy about that. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to stay, listen at your pace, take what helps, leave what doesn't, and remember, no matter where you are at today, it's going to be okay. That that title has helped me through so much that I mean, even when I can't say anything else, I can always say to myself, "It's gonna be okay. It's going to be okay. I may not have the answer, but it's going to be okay." I love you. Have a great day, and I'll see you later.